My name's Erin. I'm a lighting designer at Nolte, Dubai. My background actually is interior design. I studied interior design at UTS in Sydney, and lighting was always part of the course, like we do a few classes here and there. But it wasn't until my final year that UTS had just started up a Masters of Lighting course, and one of my university lecturers asked me if I wanted to take part in the course, and I saw it as a great opportunity, so I decided to jump on board, and little did I know it was something that I really came to love and enjoy.
My name is Amy Semple. I'm the design director of Nolte in Dubai. I got into lighting design when I studied interior design at the University of Hertfordshire, and I graduated in 2009. When I began the course, I didn't even realise that lighting design actually existed, especially as a worldwide specialist industry. I always knew that I wanted to become a designer, and I pursued my dream in interior design. During my course, we were introduced to the technicalities and design impact that lighting has on a space. The final major project was to design a light feature for the new Student Union building, part of a competition. My classmate and myself actually won the competition, and our design was realised and installed. Although we didn't have a vast knowledge of the technical part of lighting, we were heavily involved in the manufacturing process, and from this moment, I knew I wanted to become a lighting designer.
Most of my prior experience is in hospitality and hotels. I just love creating mood and really interesting atmosphere. And I've also had experience in the creativeness of doing lighting installations. A lot of what my team is doing at the moment in Nolte Dubai is public realm projects, which I'm finding really interesting in a Middle Eastern context. We're doing a whole variety of projects across our office.
I oversee all the projects in the Dubai office, which include hospitality, offices, museums, exhibition, residential, retail, government projects, mosques and so on. Most of my experience would cover the Middle East and North Africa, but I also worked on projects in Europe and the US. I would say I enjoy working on hotels the most, just because there's such a varied usage all under one roof. However, I really enjoy working on the more unusual and challenging projects, not the typical everyday space or building.
To me, when I describe lighting to people, lighting is like the glue that holds the space together. Without it, if you have terrible lighting, you could put the most expensive finish on a wall and it won't look good. You know, we elevate a space to that next level to really create an interesting experience that's in the really memorable spaces.
Because lighting is not always seen, it's more of an experience or emotion that you feel. I think that lighting design is often dismissed or not appreciated, but actually lighting has a huge impact. A successful lighting design can be the difference between a positive or negative experience, or how long you choose to spend in a location, which has a massive impact on spaces such as restaurants and retail spaces, and so on. For example, if there's a poor lighting in a changing room, for instance, whether it's low CRI, whether it's too dark, or it creates shadows, which makes whatever you're trying on look unflattering, you're never going to purchase the item.
I think since I've been in lighting, I've really seen things like fittings get smaller and LED technologies just evolve over time. It's really interesting to see how manufacturers are working closer with designers to try and develop new and interesting and creative ways to make completely out-of-the-box fittings using these new LED technologies. And I think that is where it's really going, and how we can really push the products and the designs that we come up with and how we can implement those into spaces.
Lighting technology is moving faster and faster, with new innovations, products and systems becoming readily available on the market. In my 9 years experience, I've seen a huge jump in technology available, especially the shift to LED. Products becoming so much smaller, integration of fixtures becoming easier and more seamless, efficiency is increasing, which is a big consideration, especially within the Middle East, with more and more projects requiring sustainability certification. We're hearing more and more about circadian lighting, which I think will become an integral and important feature of lighting design moving forward. So I have a big interest in how design, particularly lighting design, has an impact on our behaviour and emotion, most of the time without us even realising. This mainly stemmed from one of the first projects I ever worked on, which was a casino in Cyprus. I was fascinated by the research into how designers can use clever tricks to encourage the guests to stay longer, or to direct them to particular areas, tables, machines in the casinos. I'm not saying this is particularly moral, but it's something that definitely interests me. There are many elements of design that are implemented to make a person feel or act in a certain way, particularly in areas like casinos, retail, hospitals, etc. This also ties into health and well-being, which has become more and more a focus, especially in many of the projects that we're working on that require the WELL certification. I truly believe that we are shaped by the spaces that we occupy, and lighting plays a very important role.
On the side, I was doing lighting installations for like Vivid Festival, and I'm involved with lights in Alingsås this year. So making sure that I kind of keep that super creative side is something that I really like doing, and the sort of projects which keep me pushing the boundaries of creative ways of looking at lighting, because there's only so many ways that you can then take that and put it into a practical space where things eventually get VE'd and cut out. Whereas with installations you can really do something interesting. Yeah.
I really enjoyed working on the Dubai English Speaking College sixth form expansion in Dubai whilst working at Visual Energy. This wasn't a typical school design. Although we had the typical lux level requirements to achieve for a practical working environment, the focus was to use lighting to create a relaxing and comfortable environment for the students and a space they would actually enjoy spending time in. Often these spaces can feel bright, flat and clinical, not areas that young adults would choose to spend their time. Another project would be the Elaine Museum in the UAE with Nolte. This project was a perfect example of mixing the old and new. With an existing fort which had to be carefully treated and the new buildings, the lighting design had to sympathetically illuminate the protected historic buildings, whilst also providing a modern and functional approach for the new buildings.
I've got a few projects as well. The first one is sort of a joint. It's two of the installations that I did with Stephanie Shahada in Sydney when we were doing Vivid Festival. We were right out of university, and we were two independent designers, not backed by anybody, who decided after the previous Vivid Festival that we could do a better job. So we decided to try and push something and do something completely out of the box. So we designed Kaleidoscope in the first year and Momentum in the following year, which was a great experience for us to, develop something from scratch, make models, deal with on-site, have to build something from scratch, and working through that whole process. And I was in Melbourne and she was in Sydney, and how we managed that whole situation. And it was really great at the very end to see kids and adults and everyone standing in front of the installation and seeing their reaction to these illusions that we'd created, and they have no idea that you're the designer, and seeing truly how they interact with something that you've created. At Nolte, I think my favourite project thus far was a project I worked on in London before I left, with Selfridges Opticals. So our team with Anna and Sarah are over there. We created a really beautiful retail space together with the interior designers. We worked really well with them. We had a few difficulties on site when it came to construction, but it all really came together at the end. The detailing and all those sorts of elements really just came together to just create this really sophisticated and functional space that when the photos came back, it just like blew me away how it all came together. I think for me, the biggest challenge, because I've moved countries several times, is trying to take the skills from each place that I've learned and try to build on them and adapt. Even coming from the London office and moving to Dubai, how the projects work here, the speed of the projects, the size of the projects, what the clients are expecting is so different here. It's a completely different realm. So I've just had to throw myself into it, and with the support of the team here, just really come up to speed on how it is here. So I think that's always been the most challenging thing for me.
So I've never found it easy standing in front of groups of people and expressing my ideas, but I've always pushed myself to do things that make me uncomfortable, because I believe it's the best way to improve. So I've worked for two international lighting design consultancies in the UK and the Middle East, and I've been lucky enough to work with an amazing team of people. I had zero lighting experience when I graduated university, so much of the knowledge that I gained would be down to the 7 years that I spent at Visual Energy in London. I was often thrown into the deep end, completely outside my comfort zone, which I believe enabled me to grow at a rapid rate, learning so much along the way. Although I didn't have any technical knowledge, the founder Lawrence Titan always allowed me to have a voice, whether it was right or wrong. Another influential person in my career would be Paul Nolte. Having worked for Paul for nearly a year and a half now, he's always pushed me to the best of my abilities, always wanting that little bit more, allowing me to grow in my role and to push myself to become better at what I do.
I've had two people, I would say, that are probably, or have been quite influential in my career. The first, I would have to say, is Mike Day, who is well known in the industry in Australia. He works at the University of Technology, Sydney, and he was the one who always did the lighting courses, or the lighting lecture that we would always sit in for our interior design course. And he was fundamental in building the Masters of Lighting course, which started all those years ago. And he was the one that sat me down and said, oh, you know, I think you should give this a go. You know, I really see your interest in it, and you know, see how things turn out. So he was the one that kind of pushed me over the edge, I would say, that got me into lighting. The second person is Anna Sandgren in the London office. She is amazing. She always had faith in my work as my direct associate. She always created like a supportive environment in our team. And she always has a positive attitude, always has a smile on her face, even if things are difficult, even if you've made a mistake. She always finds ways that we as a team work together to resolve these problems, and it's not as big as what you think it is. It's fine, we can work together and we can solve it. And I learned a lot from her before I came over to Dubai about managing a team, and I've taken a lot of those skills into the team that I have now here.
So I've always been hugely inspired by natural light, and have spent many of my days photographing amazing sunsets across the countries that I've travelled. I really enjoy travelling the world, and I'm fascinated by culture and nature. Lighting design can be so different based upon location, whether it's artificial or natural light, which continues to inspire me every day.
I think being involved in lighting just makes you view spaces and environments in a whole new way. For example, how the sun hits a building, or how light casts a shadow or creates lines through cracks. You just start seeing it everywhere, to the point where I'm walking into a space and I'm like this, you know, and I'm trying to point out things, or how we can make things better, or where I can come up with new things that I can take into my own projects. And it's around you all the time. Like, I feel like you can't escape it, and you can either feel like it's overcoming you or just embrace it for what you can learn from it.
In the Middle East, we're probably leading the way in equality. This may not be the case in other parts of the world, but we are seeing more and more women involved at a higher level. I've never felt that being female has ever stopped me achieving what I want in life, nor should any other women feel this way.
I think also, like, as our practice as well, I mean, in the London office, we have heaps of females in the London office. And here, it's a bit more balanced, I would say, but we have a lot, we have 50-50, but we have 50-50. That's what the industry is even saying that we're almost at, you know. So we're a good representation as well, I think, where it sits. I think I speak from more of a younger designer's perspective. I think sometimes you feel you get a little bit lost, and you might not have a lot of confidence, and these things can seem intimidating. Like, even this is quite intimidating to do. But to not be scared, just go and stand up and say your piece, and you have a voice, and have some confidence in your opinions and your capabilities, because you never know what doors might open, or how that can change something.
So my message would be to follow your dreams and to never give up. Voice and value your opinion, whether you believe your ideas are good or bad. Push yourself to be the best that you can. The sky is the limit, irrelevant of your gender.